Welcome to the second episode of our podcast. I hope that the viewers listening in had a good time the last time, and it's going to be an even more interesting one this time because we have an expert in geology. Leo, welcome to the podcast. Real privilege and a pleasure to have you on the podcast.
Hello, Ayush. Yeah, thanks a lot. It's also a real pleasure to participate to that podcast. It's my first one, and I'm very enthusiastic to bring you few good discussions about geology in your podcast. That's great.
So, just for our listeners who are just tuning in for the first time, this is our second episode. The whole purpose of the podcast is just to entertain and to educate the audience a little bit more about our gem industry, which is quite glamorous and quite fabulous, but at the same time, it does tend to be a little secretive and quite different from what normal day and everyday life is. And so, our whole idea behind this podcast is to get the viewers and listeners a bit more informed about the gem industry so that when you go about and you might be in the industry or you might be, for example, someone who's going to be a future client, and it's always good to have some information about what you're buying, because these things that come out of the ground are naturally made and they are extremely beautiful, but it's also important because they have a long history. And today, I hope the discussion with Leo is going to help our audience understand a bit more about where their gemstones actually come from. So Leo, welcome to the podcast. Again, it's a privilege to have you. Can you talk a little
Thanks,
bit
Ayush.
about your background in the industry and how you came about getting to know about geology and what made you interested in the topic?
Yeah, totally. So yeah, just for like a little background about myself. Yeah, I was just I start just collecting rocks when I was a child and everything, and then I get very lucky. I start faceting, take a first faceting class with a guy named Uber Elner in Switzerland, and he get a company named Freeform Artist, and with that guy I start faceting when I was like I don't know 13, 14, and then I really get enthusiastic about that type of material, that term for those gems, and then I decide based on those experiences to go for geology, and not only for geology randomly, but really for mining. That's really something I was really interested in. And then when I just finished my degree at the university, I just decided to enroll for GIA to go really into the gem business because that was the most fascinating part. And after the GIA, I decided to get through a diploma in France called DUG, like Advanced Diploma for Laboratory, and it was very good. It bring me also very good few aspects about more about the analytic side of the gemology. So after that, I was very happy to meet Vincent Pordieu, and that guy was fantastic and bring me in few different good places to start my gem education about mining, and that was a very good first step. So that's how I'm really entered into the industry. And sometimes I'm still feeling I'm part of two worlds, still part of the mining industry, and at the same time I'm feeling very close to the gem trade. I would like really to stand in that line for the next few years, really to stand between the mining and the gem trade. That's
Right.
the interesting part.
Vincent is fantastic, and it's
Right.
it's a real quite a great experience to talk to a lot of people in the industry, and specifically, could you speak a bit about what you do and how it exactly impacts the gem industry?
Yeah, sure. So my work at the moment, my job, I'm really a geologist, and I've been working as production geologist or as consultant for different various mining company like Greenland Rubies, like Gem Fields, and I was lucky. I was doing explorations, so really pure exploration project where you don't know, you don't have any mine and everything, and you try to explore and try to understand, but also pure production. And production for geologists into a gem mine, this is nearly it's not existing on the planet. So I was really lucky to have the possibility to join Greenland Ruby for a few years, and really be at the production at the mine site to try to understand how to get that gem quality out of the ground. And then I was very lucky to work for the last year for as a consultant for gem fields for different exploration projects. try to understand a little better how to, yeah, how to see the value in the ground, how to make it out. And so that was very interesting. So my job is really try to optimize the productions for mining companies, but also to bring maybe a better understanding for those gem deposits to the people
Right.
taking decisions, so they can take the best decisions concerning their mines or
Right.
prospect.
You know what's the most interesting thing for me in mining geology, and especially mining geology in relation to the gem trade, is that I don't think there's any other industry in mining where the finished product that comes out of the ground eventually ends up on being the direct product for the consumer. When I say that, for example, we talk about Greenland ruby, or we talk about gem fields. Everything
Mhm,
that they produce from the mine, for example, whether it be the Mozambican emeralds, the Zambian emeralds, the Mozambican rubies, sorry, or the Greenland ruby for that matter. Everything that comes out of the ground is eventually going to be polished. It's going to be cut, and it's going to end up in jewelry, which a lot of our
mhm.
consumers in all over the world, basically in this day and age, are going to end up wearing. So, what you do directly impacts the consumer, and your ability to find the right vein, to find the right kind of survey on the map helps to source the best quality gemstones. And I mean, that's the most interesting part for me. Talking about Greenland ruby a bit in particular, uh, you told me that it is one of the projects that you worked on in the past. And from my understanding and knowledge, Greenland is an extremely torrid and harsh climate. And so, could you speak about mining in extreme conditions, especially in regards to your Greenland ruby project?
Yes, of course, of course. Yeah, it was impressive project, and that's something I'm very happy to attend your podcast to be able to talk a little about that fantastic project. Because when we are talking about, about gem mining, eh, we can say that a large part of the gem mining in the world is done artisanally,
Right.
with maybe some unskilled laborers,
Yeah, by
very little
by axe
machines.
and sickle and axe, yeah, basically, exactly, yeah, yeah.
Exactly, and so suddenly, when that Greenland Ruby decide to inject that amount of money to start mining in Greenland in those kind of extreme conditions, I will call, I think for me it was completely visionary, and so yeah, it was
If
very.
if you don't mind me asking you,
y-
what sort of an amount, like, are you allowed to speak about that? Is it something that you can speak about, or
Yeah, yeah, it's public. It's public. I think they have invest like 84 millions
wow?
for that project. Yeah, no, it was impressive. It was impressive, and that's why I would like to explain, because it's not only about money. It's really about plenty of different aspects that if you are not mining in Arctic, you cannot understand. And for me, it's like when you start to compare some products coming from one place of the world with some other, sometimes you don't have the same challenges. It's not the same quality. And at the end of the day, when you're just comparing like green rubies and say, oh yeah, those are not as good as Mogo as rubies from
As a Rubik's
Mogok,
Mogo,
or
yeah.
those ones, or those. It's not the same challenges. It's not the same story at the end. And I'm
Mm-hmm.
very I'm I was very lucky to meet Ailey Hennings. She was a part of the sales of Green and Ruby, and she really explained, like the story behind that. And first, I started to work at the mine and was like, yeah, story, it's just a mine site. But after that, it's way more than just a mine site. It's about planning, it's about understanding, it's about bringing a dream. And like you say, that gem mining is very interesting because you bring like a product straight from the mine to the
Mm-hmm.
to the to the final
To the final consumer,
consumer.
yeah.
And that link, I think it's something that the gem industry needs to show way more about where it's coming from, the how those people have been mining that out of the ground, and those extreme conditions. Because for me, that you can be in Colombia underground, you can be deep in Tanzania in the jungle and everything. It's every of those mine sites have their own challenges. And for me, that's something that the final consumer needs to understand. But yeah, to come back to to your questions, yeah, the very
That's it.
first point about Greenland, mining in Greenland and in Apalutok ruby mine. Apalutok, who means red in Greenlandic.
Mm-hmm.
It's first the remoteness of the mine site. We were like 120 kilometers away from the closest town
Mm-hmm.
and the capital, Nuuk.
Mm-hmm.
And that it was only a town of 40,000 people. So already you're kind of you cannot imagine how remote it is, because it means it's remote to bring the fuel, to bring
Mm.
the
Mm-hmm.
labor. So
Right.
only
Yeah.
just make the shift changes and bring the right people, the right operators all around the Greenland to that specific place to work is already a big challenge, and that's already a big cost.
Mm-hmm.
So that's remoteness imply that a big problem with mining is that about the spare parts. If you are mining, by example, in Canada, you can take your phone, you call, and you
Hmm.
can ask
You
another
get
mine to
signal.
send you
Exactly. Yeah.
some spare parts. Exactly. Or in Africa, you're in Zambia, you have plenty of different copper mining project active. You can call and they can send you like the right type of spare part you need for your dumper or for your excavators. In
Mm-hmm.
Greenland, the thing is that Greenland is not like a mining country. At the basics,
Right.
is I mean, they are part of they
I
were
mean,
part
for
of
I think the
Myanmar.
most part, it's almost like quite deserted, quite kind of, solitude. It's a very little people. It's a lot of like landmass basically. Yeah.
Exactly, it's basically that, without with very very little vegetations, a lot of ice.
Mm-hmm.
And what happens is that you don't have big industry or big mines who can really bring you like the spare parts you need, and you don't have that mining tradition in the country. Now
Mm-hmm.
we were talking about Zambia. Zambia, they have decades of experience, or maybe even a century of experience in mining now.
Mining,
So
right.
they have the people, they have the operators they need. They know what they are doing. So in Greenland, it was very harsh to bring all that together to make that mine operate normally. So yeah, the one big problem was to find those spare parts, but also the skilled labor, because you have
Mm-hmm.
also it's kind of like the most of the Greenlandic people, they were like a few decades ago, they were still more hunters, they were more gatherers and everything, and
Mm-hmm.
now they are jumping into the 21st centuries with us, and they start to be machine
Wow.
operators. But
Uh-huh.
Greenland
Yeah.
have been doing a fantastic program. They have been doing like a program for teaching for machine operators, because they understood that there was like a lot of needs to have machine operators all around Greenland, to make the airports, to make the roads, to make the
Mm-hmm.
mining and everything. So you need to make the harbors. You need to have some machine operators. So we had some machine operators, but you never get enough of them, if you want. And so
Right.
that was one of the big challenge you have in a very small country like this, with only 40,000 people.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, Nuuk
Mm-hmm.
is only 20,000 people. There is 40,000 people in total in Greenland. This is
Mm-hmm.
very tough to get your machine operators. So that was one of the first points. Then the other big challenge you had in Greenland is that we were digging below a lake.
Mm-hmm.
So if you want, we were into a remote fjord. So that fjord was freezing into the winter time. So already to access to the mine, you need to take
Mm.
a icebreaker. So it's a lot of logistic to bring everybody at the mine. Then after that, at the mine, we were digging like reaction zones below altitude lake, if you want. So we were mining that as an open pit, and so open cast mining, and so you get a lot of problems of water. So we were dealing and fighting with matter management most of the year, because yeah, you need to have water free mines to be able to extract your ore, your waste, and to make it work. So so yeah, it was very challenging to get the right pumps, to get everything to be able to operate. And then even for blasting, we were using explosive to blast the rocks out, to crush it, and to send that to the processing plants. And you have water into your blast holes. In wintertime, you get the ice going into your blast holes and freezing your blast holes. So you need to re-drill your blast holes to put the dynamite inside. So it was very very tough. And that
It
was only
sounds
the
like like a whole kind of being on a different planet when you talk about all these things, because
indeed.
it's not for the light-hearted, I believe. And you raised two fantastic points there. The first point that I just kind of wanted to delve a bit deeper on was the idea of empowering the community, because as you said,
Yeah.
Greenland having not much experience in the mining industry, and also having an extremely small population. What does it
Mhm.
mean for a mining company to come into a country, and they're putting a lot of money to try to educate the people, to try to train them in order to extract some form of kind of a useful labor out of them. And why is it so important for these mining companies to then, when they come in, to empower the local community rather than just to extract material in a sense,
Oh, it's really by law. It's like it's an agreement with the country that
right?
you're gonna hire up like that amount of people
Uh-huh.
from those local communities
Mm-hmm.
to work. And so
Mm-hmm.
that's now it's something that really moved really well with mining, is that most of the mining project now, you cannot just start a mining project somewhere and just bring all the people from Australia and start mining your deposits. Now
Right.
any
Wow.
large mining operations that you're going to start, they ask you to have a high percentage of local communities. And for me, it's fantastic. It's fantastic because you're bringing like new knowledge, new skills to those locals people, and they then after that they can expand and try to get to something, also something different. So
You know,
that's yeah.
100%. I mean, when I talk about the trade in general, moving up the supply chain then to the finished goods trade, I mean, speaking about 3 decades back, I don't think there were many traders or sort of gem cutters coming out of Africa. There weren't many gem traders or cutters coming out of, for example, Cambodia, Vietnam, Laos. Um, of course, Thailand was a big industry because a lot of Burmese rough
Mhm.
was coming to Thailand. But now, more and more, we see in the trade today that Bangkok is full of these traders from Africa, from Vietnam, from Cambodia, who are really kind of getting a good grasp of the trade because they got the opportunity. They were part of these programs. They learned about the sort of product, and it's really a matter of national pride because when your country produces so much natural resource, I think it's a waste if your people aren't able to exploit it and to really benefit from it. Because I do understand there is a sort of resource curse attached with the countries that have a lot of mining. When you talk about Colombia,
Yes.
you see
Mhm.
200 or 300 years of history of mining emeralds. But today, when we talk about the trade itself, I feel like a lot of this material is quite instantly exported out of the country. And so many times, when we see the local cutters aren't able to really make the most of the rough because it goes to the
Yeah.
large conglomerates. So the other thing
Yeah.
that I wanted to discuss was extreme mining conditions. It's not easy to live in a place like this. Talk about your experience of how were you able to manage to survive in these kind of areas. What sort of a team did you have? How many people, and how do you manage food? How do you manage, for example, things like, as you said, being iced out, your machinery kind of freezes sub-zero temperatures. So what's that experience like?
Yeah, so we were like a group of around 40 people,
Hmm.
or maybe sometime 30 people at the mine site. So people for cooking, cleaning, for the processing plant, for the open pit, the machine operators and everything. So we were around like a group of 30 people, and I was very lucky. I was the only outsiders out of Greenland. So it was
Wow.
very, yeah, it was a fantastic experience, and I really thanks my former bosses and everything to give me like the opportunity to work in that type of environment with my colleague. It was fantastic, and no, the atmosphere, it's rough, extreme conditions, but now with the technology and everything, you can really live a very comfortable life up there if you want. It's really, we now with the few good generators and a good heating systems, you're feeling home. So it's like even the new machines, you can work now till minus 40 degrees without any problems. I think the maximum we get, the minimum temperature we get at the mine site was maybe minus 20, minus 25 sometimes.
Wow.
but the machines keep going. It's just you should never turn off the machines, otherwise after that you get a problem. But otherwise, no, the machines are, the heavy equipment is really standing quite well for those type of temperatures. So it was all right, and the life at the camp, my colleagues were fantastic. We have some very good laugh. It was, very like a familiar atmosphere, and
Hmm.
but still you are on the mine site, you are here to work. So it was very very intense when you need to go to do the job in the pit and everything, and you don't see anything, it's raining, it's snowing, and all those things. But my colleagues were fantastic, and they were always motivated to go at work in the morning and in the evening. It was always fantastic talks around the meal and everything. So honestly, it was extreme conditions, but I can tell you, you really you get more than just colleagues. Suddenly, it's like stronger bonds than just colleague when you work in those type of climate and conditions.
For our viewers who are just tuning in for the first time, I had the opportunity to meet Leo for the first time a few weeks back, and the thing that surprised me the most, or was kind of like, staggering, was that Leo is basically out 8 months of the year. He's usually working on a different project. He's sometimes doing multiple projects at the same time. And so the most important thing for him is that, that sense of adventure, that is a big part of geology, is, I think, the most important thing. And especially for a lot of the viewers who may have the intention or the goal to, in the future, perhaps pursue geology, I think the most important thing to understand is that you just have to have the heart for adventure. And as you said, Leo, I mean, you see something new every day. From my experience with you, I was just at a mine with Leo a few weeks back, and I saw him kind of climb over a mountain because he found a sort of like a kind of a different ore, and he just was so interested that there might be a particular gemstone being mined there, or there might be a possibility that there might be a particular gemstone being mined there. So, it's fascinating to hear your story because I think it makes me very excited to actually want to visit a mine. And I know there are a lot of people like me who probably have never been to a mine or who had never been to a mine, but when they look at their piece of jewelry, they always wonder, where did what part of the world did this thing come out from? And so, you know, the
Yeah.
next thing I want to ask you is, why is geology so important for the future of the trade? When we talk about maybe, perhaps in the next 100 years, that the major sources of gemstones might be very different from what they are today. So why is geology so important for the future?
Yes, no, very, very good questions indeed. If you want, I'm those gem deposits. I'm considering that they are very close for in a part of it they are very close to the metal deposits because
Hmm.
you're just extracting ore out of the ground. But I think with the prices, those crazy prices that you get per carat, depending of the gemstones you consider, there is a lot of those deposits they have been mined artisanally for years, and now maybe with those high prices and maybe that shortage of rough that maybe you can get in the future, you can suddenly start to see those deposits as ore. Not about just like a small resources, and it's only the artisan sectors who can take care of that.
Hmm.
Suddenly, maybe you can consider like gem fields have been doing for Zambia with their Kajam operations, or for Montepuez Ruby Mining Limitada operations. They have been taking that as a ore. So you can
Hmm.
see those deposits on several facets, and geology is helping you out for that. Is suddenly you can see only plenty of small points on the map, or you can see like a very large deposit. And
Hmm.
so that's what I want to bring to you and to the gem trade, for why geology is important for the future of the gem trade, is that you need to see the cut-off grade. And that's
Hmm.
that's something that exists all around the metals. Cut-off grade is like the minimum amount of material that you need to extract from the ground and make your operation profitable.
Hmm.
And that's the trickiest part for the gem mining, is that you never get like a proper cutoff grade. For gold, you know that if you get like 3 grams of gold per ton,
Hmm.
it will pay for your machines, it will pay for your operations, for your salaries and everything, and you're gonna make maybe that amount of benefits. But with gem mining, it's very tricky because you don't know what you're gonna get. You don't know the size, the color, the quality of the gems that you're gonna extract from the ground. So that's why I'm very fascinated about those deposits, is that you still have that very uncertainty about the final cutoff grade that you're gonna get. So you don't know exactly about um, about what's gonna be your cutoff grade. You cannot tell. In Greenland
What
Ruby, it was the big.
becomes what becomes the kind of way to then kind of go through it? Do you like collect soil samples and try to go one step at a time, or many times is it like kind of go all in and invest a heavy amount of money and figure out where it goes as you go along?
That's why that's why it's very tricky for to do gem mining is because you can do sampling for gold. You're gonna see some anomalies. You're
Uh-huh.
gonna see that you're gonna have a constant resources for marble. If you want to mine marble, iron, copper, or whatever, you're gonna have like large amount of metals in the ground with
Mm-hmm.
very low quantity, very minimum quantity, but you can extract that with profit. With gem mining, if you don't understand your deposits, it's
Mm-hmm.
very tricky to go for it. If you don't know where is the value, by example, in Tanzania, by example, they are mining few deposits, what we call the colluvial deposits, with the weathered sections of the primary deposits.
Mm-hmm.
And then after that, they want to start mining the primary deposit, but maybe the value was into the weathered deposits, the where the gemstones were easy to extract, maybe not into the primary. So that's why for me, geology is very interesting for that. It's because you can suddenly understand to all those points on the map and say, oh yeah, this is not only small artisanal miners. It's a sections of a larger deposit, and that's
Mm-hmm.
how I think geology could really help gemology and the gem trade. It's about identifying that not exactly how much grams of good quality you can mine out, because we don't have the tools yet or the methodology to understand that, but at least to identify the ore body, to identify the volumes who can be interesting to be mined out, depending of which budget you have. So that's what I would like to do. So that's why for me geology is very important about and mining really about important about optimizations, about work efficiently and in safety. That's something that you see, with artisanal mining. They go quickly. They try to go very quickly to the ore. They don't optimize the output of the mine. They don't
Mm-hmm.
work safely. They just make like straight tunnels down to the ore and try to get the maximum of stones out, because they don't have the budget. They cannot plan in the future on 2 3 years. And so that's, I think, something very interesting that we could address for the gem trade and for the investments. It's try to bring geology for those artisan miners, try to give them some tools also to optimize their small mining operation. Because for me, if you are mining like gem fields, like a million of tons of ore per year, or you
Mm-hmm.
are a very small miners and you're just mining maybe a ton per month,
Mm-hmm.
it's a mine. You extract your material out of the ground, so you need to know how you're going to crush it. You need to know how you're going to wash it, how you're going to optimize your operations. And for me, there is a lot of small artisanal miners who need to go through that and maybe to optimize their mine site, so maybe you can have also a better production at the end. So that's
Right.
that's that thing. One extra things I would really like to tell you about geology is, I made the same analogy for the metal markets. If you want, for copper, by example, for years we have been taking the low hanging fruits. If you want, all
Mm.
the the easy access deposits have been mined out, and
Mm-hmm.
now maybe you're gonna see in few decades that we are not making any more new discovery for copper or for gold, because you need to drill more, to invest way more to get new mines, to
Mm-hmm.
protect the environment and everything. But you have less and less discovery. So in the near future, you're gonna have the problem of all the mines that you have in the past gets close to the exhaustion points, and you don't find new deposits. And I see exactly the same analogy for the colorstone mining, is that we never really do some proper explorations. We never really invest like a lot for to understand where is the next deposit. So now we are getting to the point that you need to wait that somebody find like the next deposit, but maybe it's going to take decades before you can get again a good rough gem quality. So for me, it's interesting now that we can start to think about invest in prospecting, invest into explorations for the colorstone industry. Try to, no matter the scale, for artisanal miners or for larger scales, just to try to understand better those deposits.
No, it's a good connection to my next question, which is going to be, we, as being part of the gem trade, my interest in, what the next 50 or 100 years holds. And so, which part of the world do you feel are going to be the next? Africa is. Let's say, for example, when you talk about the 1930s and 40s, Africa and artisanal mining was just kind of on the rise, and it seemed like this was the future, that all of our gemstones at some point in the future are going to be coming out of Africa. At a certain point
Mhm,
in history, it used to be Brazil, which was one of the highest
mhm.
producers of gemstones. Emeralds has always strongly been Colombia, but for the past 4 or 5 decades, Zambia has been outperforming Colombia. And so, where are our future gemstone deposits? Do we know? Is there a way to find out?
Yeah, there is there is a way to find that. I mean, you cannot spot them out straight, but you can have some ideas about where you can find maybe more of those. Honestly, strongly believe that those main sources gonna just we're gonna keep expanding the same sources if you want. I'm not believe that we're gonna suddenly start to see like now people are really quite well widespread all around the world. So I'm not believing that suddenly we're gonna see like a new areas without any gemstones that's gonna be stand out of the map. I'm still strictly believing that the next decades we're gonna see more and more discoveries in Mozambique, all into the East African belt. For me, there is huge square kilometers around who are underexplored. Nobody have been never mining down there, and so I think there is still huge potential for those places.
The one thing that
So
is interesting for me was that we talk about Vermont and how there's so much tourmaline that's coming out, but the issue that becomes is with these with the urban sprawl, quite a large part of the world is now occupied by cities, and so it's impossible for you to actually to mine or to get a license to mine in these areas. And so, is that kind of a lost potential? Do you feel, or is that something that's just a part of the trade that sometimes you can't mine in places that might have a good deposit?
yeah, I think it's a fact. There is some good areas for gem mining, and maybe those areas will be never touched. And maybe
Hmm.
it's a good thing because they are below under a national park, they are under a city or whatever. It's it's mining. Sometimes you have some areas they cannot be mined because of those reasons. But also there is, I think, plenty of areas they are not mined yet because of the access, just
Hmm.
because no, nobody wants to walk like 5 hours or maybe 5 days in the bush
Right. Yeah.
to get to a new gem deposit. So for me, more and more, some countries gonna get a better road access and gonna develop in few places. More and more you're gonna see some new gem deposits coming around the corner if you want. By example, you cross a road in across few areas in Zambia or Mozambique. I can tell you, you're gonna find some new gem deposits. That's for sure, because there is the potential, and it's like square kilometers of terra incognita, and in those square kilometers you have those deposits. After that, it's more about how do you extract them. Do you want them to be mined artisanally? Do you want to have like larger companies, larger corporates who wants to get those license and extract their own way? So
Hmm.
it's more about what the gem trade wants, about for the future. That's why I'm talking about prospecting and everything. It's for me, there is still a lot of resources around there. I can tell you. It's just about how to extract them, how to identify them, how to evaluate them, because that's the tricky part. It's like, why should I just go to one place and give $10 million to a guy who find maybe one ruby?
Hmm.
Maybe he will. It was the only ruby, and he will never get another one. Or maybe there is 10 other very nice piece in the ground, and they just wait to be extracted. So how do you evaluate that? And that's the tricky part of the of gemstone mining, is really about evaluation of those deposits and about what we call the nugget effect. It means that, like for gold nuggets, it
Hmm.
means that you have a high variability into your ore. So you can process tons and tons of rock, and you will never find any good gem quality. And then you're gonna go for the extra ton, and into that extra ton you have a pocket of very nice gem quality. So that's what we call the nugget effect, and that's why no big mining company for metals, they want to come into the gem mining, because heterogeneous.
Uncertain. Yeah, it's
It's
too uncertain. Yeah.
uncertain, exactly, and that's why those guys don't want to invest. So that's why I think that Gemfields is visionary. It's because suddenly they bring those deposits who cannot be mined because of that nugget effect. They manage a way to make them profitable, and for me that's exceptional because it's solving like a years of plenty of metal mining company have been going for diamonds because diamonds are quite homogeneous into the kimberlite, into the deposit, so you know that you're going to get that amount of diamonds with more or less that amount of quality. That side you cannot really say for the color, but at least you know you have an idea of the volume and how much you're going to make. But for gemstones it's a different ball game. So that's going to be interesting. For me, there will be more and more discovery of gemstones in the future for sure. But you get also a change, In, by example, for Madagascar, the populations also is changing. Before, like 20 years ago, you have plenty of young people and they want to go for mining. In 20 years, Madagascar, maybe there will be not that amount of people who want to go for mining. Maybe they will prefer to go for some other jobs, more skilled jobs in with computers, with transport, with you name it, so some other type of industry than gem mining because it's too harsh. So maybe that's gonna be a kind of like gonna stop a little those discoveries.
That's a good point. I mean, there's a lot of safety issues and a lot of other issues that are involved in part of the mining process. And then my next question to you, do you feel safe? Do you feel safe when you're at a mine? Like, what are the kind of dangers and challenges that come with your job?
Oh, honestly, I feel safer on the mine site at the mine site that in my in my home. It's no, it's because mining can be done very very carefully with extreme safety, and those big mines, and you can control every parameters and be sure that you're going to be safe to work. And for me, that's the quote is always the most important stuff going out of the mine is the miner. And that's something I try in every project we are working on. I try really to put safety on the top of the priority, because it's a job, and those people are here just to earn their money, and they are not here to challenge their life. So no matter what is the scale of the operation, safety has to come first. And so for me, that's why I'm feeling super safe, is because we are brainstorming about the safety, and honestly, more and more you talk about it, more and more you address that type of problems, more and more I'm feeling safe on the mindset.
Fantastic. The next question I would have is, do you think one type of mining is better than the other? Like the first one being artisanal mining, which is where, a small enterprise kind of comes together. It's a mom and pop shop. They mine slowly and they don't actually over extract the material. Whereas the other way is that there's a large mining conglomerate that comes in and tries to extract as much ore or material as possible, but that allows the product to become a lot more marketable in the market.
That's a tricky question. As a geologist, that's the big problem I have. It's, you know, as a geologist, I can only work with large miner who get like a large amount of money to spend to have a proper operation. So smaller miners, I have a very big limitations to give them the right keys to help them mining. I can help them for about the safety, about yeah, based on the geology, try to help them out how to mine, but they will never pay me to bring me on site as a geologist. It's only like a large corporate. But for me, all those people, large mining corporate or small scale miners, they all have a purpose, because there is, it's about the cut-off grades. There is some deposits you can only mine them artisanally, and there
Mhm.
is some deposits you can mine them with very very large AV equipments and large operations. So for me, it's really more about the deposit. How do you evaluate your deposit? And there is some deposit I hope they will stay artisanal, because
Mhm.
it's part of the traditions, it's part of the place. And there is some other deposit I really hope that we can find some yeah, some budget, some
One
finance,
that
and try to
comes to my mind is Sri Lanka. I've seen Sri Lanka, and yeah, they have a very interesting way going about their mining, and it's been artisanal for decades or centuries, and that's how they like it.
centuries. Yes.
Yeah, yeah, that's how they like it.
Yeah.
It's yeah.
Yeah. Now, for me, there is not good or bad ways. It's like it's a big, and that's why I like the gem trade, and I really like that industry. It's because you have so much different type of possibility. It's not only about the at the end. It's not only about gemstones. It's about different practices. And for me, there is not wrong practices or different practices. It's more about how to get better practices,
Hmm.
even if it's artisanal, how to bring them safety, how to bring them knowledge to make them more efficient, and so at the end of the day they can make a living. For the big corporations, how to minimize the impact on the environment, how to bring like the good quality for the gem trade. So for me, everybody, yeah, it's complementary. So that's why I think it's very important to keep both, and there is not like one who's better than the other.
Fantastic. Okay, we're just about to wrap up things. Leo, the last question I have is actually from the previous speaker. So, what we do is basically we ask him to prepare a question for the next speaker, but he did not know who you're going to be or
Oh.
what part of the trade you're from. So, it's kind of a shot in the dark for him, but it might be an interesting question for you because he was a rough trader. And so his question was pertaining to rough. And so the question that he asked was that how does the terrain of the country impact the quality of rough that comes out of the region? And so I think what he was trying to ask was that, you know, is it always true that in order to get the best rough, you have to have the worst conditions? Or is it generally sometimes that while walking on the road, you find a piece of rock on the ground and ends up being a gem quality ruby?
Yeah, so yeah, that that's interesting. No, indeed, the terrain the doesn't really impact the quality of the rough. It's really the geology, the because the terrain was not looking like this million years ago.
Hmm.
So those gem deposits, they were inside some mountain chains. So the topography of the place have been completely changed over the million of years. So it's not something related to the. It's not because you go into very rough terrains, very remote, that you're gonna get like a better type of gem quality. It's
Hmm.
more already about the context, the background, the regional geology who
Hmm.
really influence the gem quality. So
Got
it's really
it.
because of the rock. It's really because of the rocks, not really about the topography.
The topography
But
is
sometimes, the topography is linked to the rock lithologies. But most of the time, you can be in the middle of Kenya and find a beautiful ruby on the side of the road, and it's a completely flat. Or in Mozambique, like Montepuez complex is very very flat terrain, and you get some beautiful rubies. So yeah.
right. So I know we have to wrap up things, but I just have one more question because I'm so interested in, is there one particular mine or one particular kind of region of the world that you really like, is your favorite region and you feel is the most interesting mining place?
Um. Oh, that's a tough one. Honestly, no, for me, it's like reading books, and I don't have like a favorite one at the moment. It's just for me, every time I can just read a new book, I will be more and more enthusiastic. If you ask, I never been in Swat Valley, by example, in
Hmm.
Pakistan. I will dream. I've been making like a small research project on that. I will dream to go to visit the place to see the geology, to see the extraction practices, to see how those guys are sorting the rough, what type of quality they get. So for me, no, I'm always motivated to get one more deposit, to visit one more deposit. So for me, the geology is always changing. So no, at the moment, I don't have one favorite one. I just get amazed every time I go in one places. Like we went down in Belmont, and you see the ore, you're like, oh my god, that's fantastic. You see emerald in the rock. So for me, it's just more about seeing gemstone in the rock. No matter where it is, I'm always amazed. That's always like a dream come true.
Fantastic. Thank you so much, Leo, for doing this. I hope the audience had a good time, and it was truly very insightful for me to talk to you. And I hope
Thanks a
that
lot
in
for
the
having me, Ayush.
future, yeah, future coming, that it's going to be just as interesting, and hopefully you make a lot more new discoveries. So thanks so much, and we'll see you next time. Thanks.